Hey, we are in council chambers. It's 1 minute after 7. May I please have a motion to approve the agenda as has been circulated? Councillor Thompson, Councillor Maracas, comments or questions? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. May I please have declarations of pecuniary interest and general nature thereof? Seeing none, Mr. Clerk, we'll move into we have no delegations. We do open up for members of the public who are not, we have 3 presentations this evening, but if there is any member of the public here who has some input, we'd be delighted to receive that. And if not, then we'll move into consideration. We have 3 presentations tonight. I will go to Mr. Elliott first, just to prep us on what we're getting tonight, and then we'll open up. Mr. Elliott, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Tonight we have 3 cultural partners that we do a lot of business with and appreciate the inputs in their community. We're going to start with the library. They have a presentation to give to you, walk through their activities for the year and what they're looking forward to in the coming year. I had suggested to them that that presentation could be in the range of 20 minutes or 25 minutes or so, leaving time for discussion following that. And then we'll move into the Aurora Cultural Center. Again, another 15-20 minute presentation from them to provide, again, sort of an accountability report of what they've done this year and where they're heading for next year. And then we have the Aurora the Aurora Historic Society. They plan on joining us a little bit later in the meeting, and they'll be doing the same thing, but on a smaller scale. Before you tonight, to start with the library, we have 2 things. We have a text type handout that is essentially the binder contents for the library budget, followed by a copy of their presentation, which starts off with somebody on a bicycle. So those are the 2 documents that you can refer to for the library presentation tonight. I'll turn it back to you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Elliott. And with for the library, we have Jill, the Chief Executive Officer. And Jill, you just by yourself, or are you bringing up anybody with you?
No.
It's
yes.
on now.
Oh, it is. Thank you. No, I have with me tonight a number of board members and staff members as well. We have Nancy Evely Brown, who's our chair. We have Greg Smith, who's our vice chair. Marina Roncaden, who's a member, and Jan Friedman, who's a member. And we have Joanne Jordan is one of our managers, and Risha Mandakorn, one of our managers. And we have our marketing coordinator with us as well. I think that's everybody. Good evening. Mayor Daw and members of council, thank you for the opportunity to meet with you tonight and explain our operating budget for 2018. If I could just digress right off the bat, you have in front of you a lovely little cookbook booklet from one of our brand new partnerships with the York Region Food Network at the Community Kitchen, and it's a newcomer program. And it was a program this fall where a group met and cooked wonderful meals from all over the world, and also gave an opportunity for people who are new to Aurora or who are new enough that they are not feeling as invested in the community as they might be, to get together and cook. And what a better way to get to know people and to break down barriers than cooking. They chose a cuisine from whatever country they wished every event and cooked it, and the result is the cookbook in front of you. So I hope you will maybe take it home and try some of them out. I hear they're delicious. I never got the chance to have any, but I hear they're very good. So I hope you'll enjoy it. On to the operating budget. The picture on, this is me. The picture on the screen is actually a picture of the newcomers in the kitchen cooking, and they do look very happy, I have to admit. Our new mission for our new strategic plan is Aurora Public Library builds community by sparking connections, enriching lives, and contributing vibrant spaces and for discovery. We believe that in today's fast-paced competitive environment, the value proposition of public libraries is greater than ever before. By offering new opportunities for learning and discovery for every resident, through connecting people and ideas, and in building community through inclusiveness, the public library has become a cultural hub for Aurora. At Aurora Public Library, we invite you in to contribute to a unique community space where laughter and a lifetime of possibilities can be yours. The values that we live every day are a commitment to intellectual freedom, to literacy, inclusiveness, innovation, accountability, and service excellence. We provide access to diverse expressions of knowledge and creativity. We foster literacy and nurture lifelong learning. That is really our key to what keeps us going. We support accessible and equitable services. We anticipate and respond to the changing environment. We ensure that library services are relevant and administered in a fiscally responsible manner. And we serve with integrity and skill, helping our community explore, connect, and engage. Our vision is on the screen, and again, that's the new vision that we are striving for in the years to come. But I just need to just read that last part, because when we were doing the strategic plan, it came to us that this is really what we're all about, and this is what we feel most strongly about, that the library transforms lives by supporting literacy and cultivating creativity, conversation, and joy. And I think everyone who works at the library believes that we do transform lives. Aurora Public Library affirmed its commitment to community-led service in the board's strategic plan, Place of Possibilities, 2017-2021. We see our place in the community as being a socially responsible and responsive organization, a collaborative partner, and an active participant in building relationships and understanding the needs of the community we serve. Literacy has always been core to the public library. However, there are new sets of skills required for the 21st century beyond alphanumeric literacy. Those include digital literacy, financial literacy, and critical thinking across all disciplines. Perhaps one of the greatest strengths of the public library is the trust that our community places in us as a neutral place for information that represents differing viewpoints. Our role is to assist our community to become informed and empowered. As you can see by the numbers on this slide, we've had a very good year. And these are not year-end numbers, obviously. They only go until the end of October, so the end of December numbers will be even better than these. The movement's upward, and that's what we like. We're having more and more people through the door, more materials going out the door, more programming attendance. So things are definitely, we're really bubbling. As the development of the knowledge economy progresses, APL serves as a vital link for every resident of Aurora. The library is an investment in the future of our community and a driver of success in school preparedness, reading readiness, economic and employment success, personal growth, and social equity. And I repeat investment because I think that's when you are imparting large sums of money to an organization, you want to know that you get a return on your investment, and I'm hoping tonight you will see that you have been. But it truly is an investment in the community. Our year-to-date numbers reflect the upward trend of the community's use of their public library. More difficult to quantify are the intangible benefits that contribute to the quality of life for Aurora residents. Aurora Public Library is a welcoming public space that is responsive to the diverse needs of our community. And if I could just play a very short video clip.
Like in the past, libraries were primarily a resource for books. In today's day and age, it's not just a resource for books, but it also has media, and it has meeting rooms and community events and things like that. I think going forward in the future, the library is going to be more about the online resource availability and more about community service capabilities.
That was videoed at the Multicultural Festival this past year. So on the next slide, we have some highlights of achievements from 2017. Everything we do in a year obviously can't fit on one slide, but I'll highlight a few for you. We were very lucky to engage a young computer science student from Queen's University as an intern. She wanted to have a gap year and had done a summer program for us and approached us, and we were able to work it into our budget for 2017. And she worked for us for a year. She delivered coding workshops to the community and provided in-house training to staff on technology-related matters. She contributed a great deal to the vibrancy and to the skills of the staff, and did a wonderful job of introducing coding to the public of all ages, from children to adults. Our newcomer initiatives included our bi-weekly newcomer women's meetups, 2 newcomer walking tours. We partnered with Hillary House for those, and the screening of the documentary Last Harvest, including a question and answer with the filmmaker in English and Mandarin. Our first STEM Fest was a huge success. We attracted 200 attendees, ranging from preschoolers to seniors. We conducted 2 focus groups with members of the LGBTQ community, one for teens and one for adults, and 2 focus groups in partnership with the York Region Support Network Services, one for residents using the services and one for service providers. We also provided Lunch and Learns, which we were able to promote online learning in areas such as computers, technology applications, accounting and finance, and business. And we brought these free learning opportunities to local businesses and organizations and gave them to their employees over their lunch breaks. And it was quite popular. The APL Book Bike was a custom-built endeavor as an environmental and an innovative way to offer pop-ups in parks and at festivals. We participated in many community events, such as the Aurora Chamber of Commerce Street Festival, their Tech Expo and Home Show, the Town of Aurora's Canada Day celebrations, the Multicultural Festival, Movies in the Park, Doors Open, Culture Days, and the Aurora Winter Blues Festival. Our budget process began in August, and again, we used our strategic plan to plan around our operational budget for the coming year. And our 3 broad goals are build community, place of possibilities, and organizational capacity. Our first strategic goal of build community, we will endeavor to hold frequent focus groups, both in the library and out of it, with a variety of demographic groups and in different areas of the community. We will conduct regular surveys, both in person and online. We will provide a mechanism for the public to participate in the development of library collections. So in other words, they can make direct recommendations to be purchased for the library. We will compile and maintain a master list of all civic and community groups that serve Aurora residents, and create an internal user experience team to improve customer satisfaction. And most of those are already in progress or pretty much completed, so we're well on our way. For place of possibilities, we want to expand our physical space based on the recommendations of the 2015 Facility Needs Assessment. We also want to identify barriers to service and to investigate solutions. We want to expand access to technology in the community. We want to introduce digital media tools and software, and we'd like to connect with the community by providing additional off-site programming as we can. For organizational capacity, we will develop online resources to assist in staff training, skill updates, and self-directed learning. We will devise feedback mechanisms to gauge satisfaction with programs, events, and training opportunities. We want to develop human resource processes that will instill corporate values of service excellence and innovation. We will review staff roles to support a more dynamic, nimble, and modern service delivery. And we will invest time and resources in technological training for all staff in order to position APL as a community hub for technology. Our library budget process follows a fairly standard process. Our leadership team gathers in late summer determines what our objectives are for the next year. Then administration takes that draft and starts working with it based on the amount, the percentage increase stipulated by yourselves, the council. This year we have a new feature. We have a finance subcommittee, and they then received the work that had come that far. The finance subcommittee was very helpful this year. We were able to think through a lot of the things that we wanted to do and polish it in a way that felt right for the library. It then went to the library board on the finance committee's recommendation, and that brings us to tonight with the council. Our 2018 budget framework is basically to continue to align our staff complement. We're making changes as we have retirements and resignations to fine-tune our staffing to make sure that we're meeting the needs of the population. We want to expand the library's physical space, again, using our facility needs assessment, and maintain our contribution to the library's general capital reserve. And with the funding envelope stipulated by the Town of Aurora Council, I'm proud to say that we are presenting a balanced budget. As you can see in the budget highlights slide, our largest expenditure is in the area of personnel costs. So salaries and benefits will see an increase due to base pressures that include the step rate progressions that staff will experience through their grid, and also adjustments for cost of living and our commitments to our collective agreement, and as well the impact of the anticipated minimum wage increases, which will take effect January 1st, have all been factored into the numbers before you. But we have managed to keep our municipal requisition for this year at 2% over last year at $75,400. Our other expenditures have also increased slightly, 1.9%, and those are mainly to accommodate the cost of doing business, so increase in costs of materials and contracts and services that we have to absorb. For the revenue line, as you, I think, know by now, because I tell you every year, we are very limited in our opportunities to raise funds due to the Public Libraries Act. Where we can charge fees or service charges, we do that. And our fines and lost and damaged revenues have also plateaued in recent years. You've been hearing that from me for a few years as well, due mainly to a combination of factors that include a growing e-book circulation where no fines ever accrue, the fact that we email courtesy notices for items that are due, and the ability for our customers to renew items online before they are overdue. So all of these have affected our ability to generate revenue in those lines. Happily, in 2018, we will be assuming responsibility for the Magna Lebovic rooms, and we do anticipate increased revenue as a result of that and have put that into our budget for 2018. As indicated on the previous slide, but illustrated from a slightly different perspective on this one, the key drivers are the cost of personnel, the increase of other expenditures that we have to purchase to conduct business, and the decrease in revenue. But our increase in 2018 over 2017, we've held to $75,400 or 2%. So the way it works out was last year we received a municipal requisition of $3,767,700. And if we were going by the town's supplied share of our assessment growth for 2018, we would be looking for an additional $116,719 or 3.1%. But we adhered to the 2% that was required of us. So our municipal requisition for this year would be $3,843,000 and $100. We believe the library is a true community asset and we provide true community value. Aurora Public Library is an integral component in the social and economic lives of our residents and our business community. Every dollar that you invest in the library returns a benefit to the social and economic lives of the residents here in Aurora. We engage in partnerships, we facilitate linkages that support culture, learning, entrepreneurship, as well as personal and professional growth. We truly are not our grandparents' library anymore. There is a growing demand for the library as place, a third space that is not home and it's not work, where lives are enriched through community interaction. And we believe the library is that third space for Aurora. This slide was also taken at the Multicultural Center Festival. Support for Aurora Public Library has never been as important as it is in this age of digital revolution and changing demographics. I'm pleased to inform Council that Aurora Public Library has been named to the 2017 shortlist for the Minister's Award for Innovation for our Digital Literacy for Community project. The goal of this initiative was to ignite a passion for STEM learning in our community and to help Aurorans develop the skills needed to succeed in a digital economy. This award will be given out at the Ontario Library Association annual conference in Toronto on February the 1st. So everyone, cross your fingers. We're very excited about this. In conclusion, Aurora Public Library will continue to be one of Aurora's key community destinations, offering residents of all ages diverse collections, stimulating program, innovative technology, and a variety of interactive spaces. Thank you for your time and for listening.
Thank you very much, Jill. Appreciate the presentation. First of all, a motion to receive the presentation from Councillors Kim and Humphreys. Questions or comments for Jill, please? Press your buttons. Someone's got to have a question. Councillor, they're going to feel left out. Councillor Gartner. Okay, now Councillor Gartner, please.
Thank you for coming. It's a good news story. Personally, I think it should be Risha pictured on this handout riding the bicycle mobile. Thank you. It's a great idea. I just wanted to know, with respect to the comparators from this year, last year and this year, obviously the 2016 is a full year and the 2017 is not. Even so, with respect to the first one, in-person visits and electronic services.
I was trying to get back.
Sorry, it is slide 3. Well, while we have this picture, are those residents who live in Aurora? Are they attendees of the festival? The
picture that was
just on the screen?
They were attendees at the festival.
Thank you. I just find it curious. It's not a comment, negative or positive. I just find it curious that the in-person visits and the electronic services are pretty much the same, notwithstanding it's a full year and not a full year, whereas other things have even increased in less than a year. So is there any comment on that?
I think it's more a question of our programming has been so successful this year. Our staff have worked so hard to change up our programming, make it interesting, make it attractive to people, and to give a wider variety. They've really worked diligently to do that. So I think it's more a number to say that our programming has done so well that maybe by comparison the other increases seem not so significant. I mean, we're still greeting more people than ever before, but I really think it's more a good news story about programming, and the kudos go to my staff.
Thanking, and the programming that I've been to has been just excellent. You were also talking about off-site programs. Could you?
Well, an example would be the Lunch and Learns, where we go out to businesses and actually demonstrate some of our online courses and some of our electronic resources that people can use. Most people don't know what we have, so we're really putting a push on to promote them. It's like in a bookstore when you hand sell a title. That's what we're trying to do with our electronic resources.
I remember the days sitting in the gallery. For many years, the debate at council was whether the library should be open on Mondays, before your time.
Yes.
Thank
Councillor
you.
Humphries.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you very much, Jill, for coming tonight, and to the board members and staff. Just a great presentation. It's vibrant. It demonstrates how just what our library is, extremely vibrant and keeping up with the changes and continuing to introduce areas of of what's required for our community and our residents to enjoy. So we're just blessed to have such a great facility and the continuing programs that that you deliver through your staff. So excited. They're so excited, and I love that. Of course, I'm spoiled because of the board. But I wanted just to comment about the initiative. This is the first year
Yes.
that we've done this?
The funding comes from the York Region,
Food Network.
and it's a year by year. So I believe there's funding for another session in the spring. I think that's correct, Risha. So I think we'll probably keep on doing it as long as they have the funds to partner with us.
It's incredible, and I'll tell you, it touched near home because being immigrants, my parents were immigrants to Canada. My mom actually, a strong volunteer in Toronto, created a program like this in her home.
Wow.
So when she invited new comers from Canada, she would share her cooking, they would share theirs, and they'd have this wonderful time.
Yeah.
So it's wonderful. I think this is the way you build community and continue to build it stronger, and you share each other's cultures. You can't lose. So thank you for sharing that tonight, and thank you for everyone coming this evening.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Jill, and board members and staff accompanying Jill this evening. The library, as well as all the other cultural partners, we live in a time when we're increasingly having to be competitive with other media outlets, TV and video games, and it's a challenge because the library has to wave their arms and get attention from everyone saying, hey, we can't be stationary. If you need us, we're here, but we have to get out there and grab their attention to let them know that, hey, we're a social economic advantage to you for your future. And I think the library, the last 3 years that I've been on the board, it's been a changing, it's been a huge changing times, and I think the library's been doing a fantastic job of adapting to the current climate, and with that, being on the board, I understand most of the inner workings, but if you can share with us, how things are going with, I think it's been about a year since we've hired the outreach manager, so if you can kind of share a little bit about how that's going, please.
Yes, and we have a very long, complicated title for Claudia, the Community-Led Initiatives Coordinator. So she's instrumental in the kind of thing that the community kitchen has produced. And she actually, it's too bad that she couldn't, and maybe that would be a good thing to have her come and speak to you, because her enthusiasm is infectious and she's doing such a marvelous job of getting out in the community. She's created a real network of groups that know her. In the last 3 months, I haven't attended an event in public that someone hasn't come up to me and said that she had attended one of their meetings, whether it was the Canadian Federation of University Women or those types of groups, about what a wonderful job she does. She goes and speaks to them and tries to educate them on what we're trying to do and how we're trying to gather from the community what they want so that we know what to do as opposed to us deciding for the community. It's a subtle difference between outreach and community-led. She's doing a marvelous job. Took her a few months she's not from Aurora, took her a few months to get to know the community. She has a very good handle on things now. And we just couldn't be happier with the work that she's doing and the way she's promoting the library. For someone who doesn't have a library background, she has listened and learned, and she sounds like one of us.
And, Jill, if this was, I should have mentioned this at the last meeting, but if there was ever a time that the library needed a 10-20% increase, this would have been the year, given that the staff saved a life just a couple of months ago. So how could how could council say no to any kind of request from the library, given the fantastic work with That One Life? So, thank you.
I won't touch that one, but it was wonderful, yes.
Councillor Kim, at council table, you're supposed to be rough on the library. The other, you know. Jeez.
His partisanship is showing, perhaps.
Councillor Thompson, please.
Thank you, Mayor Daw. Jill, thank you for being here this evening, thank you to all the other board members who were able to attend it. If I could just ask that the 2018 budget highlights slide be put on the screen. I just have a question about the revenue. Perfect, thank you. So on the slide, on your budget, you're indicating an increase in revenue of $9,555, which can I assume is from now having ownership of the Magna Lebovic rooms?
Yes.
So when Mr. Downey presented his budget, he indicated that those rooms were a loss to his department of $26,000 in terms of rental revenue. So have you identified 9,000 and change because you don't see that you're going to be renting them out as much as when the town had them, or because you see the library utilizing them a number of times for their own programs, so there's less time to rent them out as per when the town had it?
We plugged in a revenue number for the rooms of $6,000, and we literally pulled that out of the air because we have no idea really how it's going to go. 2018 is a transition year. There are many things booked in the room that had been booked by the town, so we're honoring those, and then working in the programming that we need for the rooms, and then hoping that we'll be able to generate some additional revenue outside of those two streams. So the ones that are already booked, that revenue won't come to us, and it's we're just honoring that for the year. So 2019 will be more the year where we'll have a year under our belts and a better sense of how much revenue we can actually count on.
Okay, great. Now, if I can just ask the clerk to go back to the library growth slide. I think it's great. Year over year, the libraries come before us, and they certainly talked about how programming is growing, and we've certainly seen lots of statistics that show an annual increase year over year for the programs and so forth. But while it doesn't show it on this slide, I have seen it in the reports that membership continues to decline. You know, I know when I was on the board, memberships, or what we called at that time registered users, was at a high of 32,000. I think the last time I saw, now it's 27,000. Can you comment on why it's declining?
There's a number of reasons that we conjecture, because what's puzzling to us is we are being used more and more by slightly less people every year. It is conjecture. Many families will use one card and share it, because any parent can tell you, trying to keep track of children's cards and not having to keep getting new ones because they get lost or they end up on the street, it's a terrible inconvenience. So a lot of people just say, we'll have one card for everybody. And I think that's probably happening more and more as we get busier and busier. And in the library world, membership numbers are becoming less and less significant. It's really more the indicators of use and the impact of the use that we're concentrating on. So while it's something that we do discuss still around the board table, there's no ready answer. And as far as our usage, as long as it continues to increase, I think whatever the reason for the membership reduction, it's certainly not having a negative impact on the library.
Great, thank you for that explanation.
Councillor Tom.
Thank you, Mayor Daw, and thanks, Jill, for coming, and to the members of the board as well. Thank you. On this slide, your in-person visits have increased to 169,256. How do you guys come up with the traffic numbers?
There's a counter on the security gates at the entrance, so we take the number and divide by 2.
Okay.
We also have a counter for people coming into the building itself, so we also have that. We didn't include it in this because it's not germane to the library, but we can also tell you how many people come into the facility just to use the meeting rooms or use the washroom.
Right, so you can actually center it on the library itself as opposed to
Yes.
just coming into
Yeah,
the
they're two
main
different
atrium
counters,
there.
yeah.
Okay. So it's a gross number. And then program attendance obviously is just tracked when, you run a program and you just track how many people are there, that type of thing?
Yeah, it's, for some of our programs, we require registration. Most we do not, so we tend to do a head count. And we
Okay.
tend to get a couple of staff to count, and then we compare the number.
Great, thank you. And then on the, just on the slide, you don't have to pull it up, but on the financial slide, you mentioned that obviously the increase is $71,745 for personnel costs. One of the reasonings was that the impact of the increase to minimum wage. Do you know how much of that 71,000 is attributed to the increase?
I don't. I can get that for you, but I
Great.
don't.
Thanks so much.
I'll get that for you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Abel.
Hi. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was wondering, Ashita, if you can put that on the overhead? Thank you. Jill, thank you to everyone here and the board. It's always a pleasure to see you. And I know it takes a lot of work to put all this together and all the numbers. And one of my main questions I was going to ask was already answered through Councillor Thompson. I wanted to know how and if the transition was taking place with the Magna Room and the increased revenue there. The snack bar is a lease, and I imagine that just goes straight to the town
At the moment, it does, yes.
at the moment.
Yes.
Okay. So I'm looking at this chart here, and I first of all, I was quite impressed with it. This is a handout. It wasn't on your presentation. And at the bottom, you have part-time 16. So I just started reading, and I think I know the answer, but I just wanted to ask you. So if we just look on the manager, content, access, and innovation, you have customer service assistant, 1 part-time, so that's 1 person.
Yes.
Then under you had circulation assistant, 8 full-time. And
Uh,
then library page
part-time.
9. So you have listed total 16 part-time. However, that adds up to more than 16 right there alone.
When you convert it to full-time equivalency, you take a 35-hour work week, that's a full-time equivalent, so you add up the number of hours divided by 35, and that gives you your full-time equivalency. So you don't compare apples to apples in that
You
case.
don't. All right, I'm still, I thought maybe the answer was that some of them were volunteers. No? So I'll go offline and get someone else to explain it to me. It's not clicking at the moment. Okay, and thank you very much for the presentation.
Councillor Rackus.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you to Jill. Jill, thank you for coming, presentation, and thank you to the board for coming as well. In regards to the budget highlights and the personnel costs, I was just curious to, when it comes to step increases, does the library have a merit-based policy?
Yes.
Merit-based increase policy, or is it just,
Yes.
are the step increases just based on amount of time
No,
service?
they are merit-based,
Okay.
based on annual performance reviews.
Okay, well, that's great to hear, and thank you. And I was just wondering, do you, as well as the number as far as what Bill 148 is going to cause as far as an increase, could you also possibly separate at a different time, maybe you can get back to me on that, how much COLA is, and then how much are the step increases, just so I can get a better number of each individually, if that's possible?
For each position in the library?
No, not each, but just overall. So it's 2.3. How much of it is COLA? How much is the step
okay.
increases?
Break it
And
down.
how much is the due to the fact of Bill 148?
Okay, I can do that.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jill. A couple of my questions have already been asked, so I will ask about the provincial grants. Has it changed at all in the last umpteen dozen years?
I knew I wouldn't get away without that one. No, since 1995, the amount has been frozen.
Well, I guess consistency is a good thing.
It's really, I feel, and my counterparts feel it as strongly as you do, that it's high time that the amount caught up to the population increase. But it's really not for libraries to do the lobbying for that. It falls on deaf ears. I think if the populace or municipal councils could make it an issue, that might have more success. I mean, we have tried to the point where we've been told to stop asking because we sound like we're whining, so we've stopped.
Not very encouraging.
No, it's not.
Okay, well, thank you. That was, well, as I say, my other question's been answered. Thank you very much for coming. Thank you to members of
Thank
the
you.
board. Appreciate, Councillor Gartner.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. With
Well, you're
Jill,
not- you're
before
not
you go,
freed
with
yet.
respect to the province, have they made up for have they made up for that cost, not increasing the amount of, that they're granting in any way? Have they provided any extra services?
That's a very good question, Councillor Gartner. Thank you, because I would remiss if I didn't point out that the government funds our vast interlibrary loan network. So all the deliveries, all the vans, all the drivers, that's all paid for. We don't pay a penny for that individually. It's paid for by the province. And for a library our size and smaller, certainly interlibrary loan is a lifeline when you live in a small community and your library has very limited resources. So yes, that is certainly a large contribution that they make. They were funding also an across-the-board slate of electronic resources for all libraries. That has been ended, but we're still hopeful that we might get some of it back. And that was great because then it didn't matter where you were, you knew you could get the same electronic database access, whether you were in Toronto or whether you were in Ajax or Bancroft or wherever. So we're still working on that. So I should say that the province does contribute in other ways, but the per household grant has been frozen.
Do they, thank you, do they provide online learning experiences, e-books, anything like that?
No, they provide access to a consortium of e-book suppliers that many libraries participate in that makes it it makes it feasible to buy e-books for many libraries. So there is that, although there's still a significant cost to purchasing them. So it's they get us the best rate possible by economies of scale, but you still have to pay for them. So it's a bit of a help, but it's it's not free.
So what is their rationale for not keeping up with the population growth?
I don't know exactly.
Okay.
It was
I don't think
know.
that's a very fair question for
Yeah.
Jill. That's more of a
Yeah.
question.
Okay, we'll leave that
I
one.
don't.
Thank you.
Councillor Thompson.
Just a quick comment, Jill, never stop asking the province. I know it's been many years and stuff, but just as a reminder for those who were around, well, it was actually before last term, but the Aurora Public Library hosted Ontario Public Libraries Week. At the time, we had invited the Honourable Michael Chan to come because he was Minister of Culture at the time, and I swear he alluded that there might have been an increase in 2010, but we're still waiting for it, so keep trying.
I think the magic word there, Councillor, is alluded to.
Yeah.
If there's no more questions, actually, Council, the motion should be, we're receiving the presentation, and as you see on the screen, that the operating grant to the Library Board of $3,861,800 be approved. Councillor Kim and Humphreys, are you okay with that? I apologize. No other questions or comments? All in favor, please. Contrary? That is carried. Your name wasn't up, so you don't count. How can I help you, Councillor Thompson?
Mayor Dawa, is that in their presentation, the municipal requisition was $3,843,100. So
Mr. Elliott?
just wondering what the difference between the two numbers were between their presentation and the number in front of us.
Thank you. The number that's on your screen at this point should be revised to $3,843,100 to correspond to the library presentation.
Thank you very much.
I apologize for that.
Councillor?
Thank you.
So with that modification, can you do that, Ishita, please? Thank you.
It's actually 100.
Yeah, I'm sure they will. Mr. Elliott, you happy with the number?
100.
Happy with the number.
Mr. Elliott is happy with the
So
number.
am I.
843.
No? 383. Okay. Okay. Are we all happy with the number now? Okay. Based on that, all in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Thank you, Councillor Thompson. Thank you very much, Jill.
Thank you.
members of the board. Our next presentation is the Aurora Cultural Center, presented Craig and Suzanne.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. We'd be happy to take that extra $20,000 if it's kind of floating around somewhere. On behalf of our board of directors, and there are several here tonight, and I will take a second to introduce them. I wasn't going to do that, but since the library did, I wanted to make sure we keep up with the library. So maybe just wave your hands. We have Eric Acker, who is our vice president. Bonnie Kraft, you all know, who's the chair of our governance and nominating committee. Karen Johnson, our secretary. And two of our very new members who just joined us in June, Mike Kennedy and Sharon Kelly. Whoa, and two more arrived. John Gallo and Damien Chan are also here. So thank you to all them for showing up tonight and supporting our presentation. I wanted to thank you very much for this opportunity to appear before you tonight in support of our budget request for 2018. I would also like to take this opportunity to thank your staff for their support and advice through this process. I will be making a few opening comments, and then our Executive Director, Suzanne Haynes, will provide a more detailed overview of our 2017 accomplishments and on our budget and grant request for 2018. For your information, the budget Suzanne will present tonight has been reviewed in detail and approved by the Board of Directors. I would also like to confirm that our 2018 budget is built on the town grant as recommended in the report before you, and as we promised in our presentation to your special budget meeting held on May 31st of this year. Finally, I wanted to reiterate a comment I made last year when we presented our 2017 budget, because I think it important to remind you that both the board and staff understand that the financial support the town provides does come from the taxpayer, and I wanted to assure you again, we do not take this support for granted or lightly. We work every day to make sure these dollars are spent wisely and transparently, while ensuring the center remains relevant and vibrant for the citizens of Aurora and beyond. In conclusion, I respectfully ask that you support the grant to the Aurora Cultural Center in the amount of $415,700 plus maybe $20,000 in accordance with the motion before you tonight. I will now turn it over to Suzanne for our more detailed presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Craig. Mayor and Council, thank you so much for giving us the opportunity to present. I'm here along with my board to talk to you briefly about our current operating year-to-date and our needs for the upcoming fiscal year. As Craig described, we're supporting the staff recommendation of a 2.5% increase to our 2018 budget, which you'll see later in the presentation. Our presentation is brief, as you've already received written reports of our Q1 and Q2 for 2017. And as you can see from the images on the slide, we've had a really varied program at the Aurora Cultural Center. We had an additional special project this year that's in the center of the slide, where we were fortunate to build a new piece of public art for the town of Aurora. We had a record number of participants this year in our educational programs, success in our gallery and live performing arts programs. So just a little bit about the agenda, what we're going to talk about, what we do, our 2017 year-to-date review, briefly our 2018 pressures, the 2018 operating budget, and our new initiatives for 2018. Our programming. We have a variety of programs that supports the cultural growth of the community. We focus our programs on the 4 visual art galleries, which offer shows of professional artists, community artists, and youth artists. An educational artistic classes for ages 4 and up with 18 summer week-long camps and 3-year-long classes for children and youth, and a variety of genres of visual and performing arts classes for adults. These classes are taught by working professionals in their field. Professional live performing arts events include music and theatrical events for adults and families. We also focus on producing community events that encourage cultural awareness, celebrate culture, and embrace cross-cultural dialogue. And lastly, enabling the community to host events of all varieties, activating the building in a very different way. In addition to the town's sustaining support, the operations are supported by our fundraising efforts and community rentals. We engage the community to show their support for the Aurora Cultural Center through financial gifts and community facility rentals. We offer a safe, welcoming, and inclusive place for the community to come together. When they use the space, they know they are supporting a larger community entity that offers corporations and not-for-profits a place to activate their own events, but also specific transformative experiences for people to enjoy in the galleries, on the stage, and in the classroom. It is a social venue which is an outlet for volunteers to feel valued, included, and supported in the community. The volunteer program is a significant part of our operations. With a very lean staff, we rely on the support of community members who donate their time to help us with administrative tasks and event-related activities, as well as governance. The volunteer force have a diversity of skill sets that they offer to support ongoing work, as well to help us brainstorm, solve problems, and govern the not-for-profit organization effectively. The policy board is recruited to ensure there are management, marketing, fundraising, governance, financial, and legal skills to support the needs of good governance. We have 150 volunteers on the Aurora Cultural Center call list. We have, with over 2,500 hours annually since we opened, volunteers in our community have donated over 27,000 hours to the center, which is over $314,000 in monetary value. In 2017 to date, we have just shy of 3,000 hours logged. We also believe in supporting the local economy. We've always made an effort to buy local and support this local economy. This strategy helps us to create good neighbors and relationships, helps the economy thrive, and broadens our reach in economic impact. We are an economic driver since when people come to the center to see a show, they often enjoy a meal out, make local purchases, gas, and sometimes accommodation. Often people attend events in groups, which multiplies the effect of their purchasing in Aurora. And as staff work in our community, they also spend their money here also, me included. I've changed all my services to Aurora. Most live in Aurora and have a larger economic impact from their employment here. So now we'll talk about some of the numbers. And I apologize, on this slide, actually, the first pie graph is missing some of the labels, but it is in the paper document that you received. This slide shows the type and volume of activity we have at the center. In 2017 to date, we've had 738 events, classes, and rentals in the building. This number represents each instance, but not whether the program or external group use more than one space. For example, during a concert we host, we often make use of the library room as the green room, the Great Hall as a marshalling space, and often the galleries for receptions. It's important to note because while it is great that we have a performance hall, if we did not also have those other spaces, we would not be able to properly support the operations. This is also true for other events like the Pine Tree Potter's Sale and Empty Bowls that just happened, that they take over the entire building for their event. The first graph shows how the venue is activated by us in the community. Our programming includes the dark blue free community events, the red professional arts programming, which includes the live music concerts, live theatrical family events, and our gallery shows with professional artists. The green community arts and heritage programming with the non-professional artists, and the purple educational arts classes, which are all taught by practicing artists. The blue represents the number of events that come through our community rentals program. The bulk of these, I should say the light blue, the bulk of these rentals are other not-for-profit associations hosting meetings or community consultations, and corporations hosting meetings or client or staff events, and the various art teachers and schools showcasing their student recitals and year-end performances. The second pie chart shows the breakdown of direct revenue generated by these activities. Direct revenue means that it does not include fundraising revenue that generally supports our entire operations and underwrites the programs. The community arts and heritage programming and free community events do not generate any revenue. The bulk of our earned revenue, or 77%, is generated with the educational arts classes and professional arts programming. We have approximately 30,000 people who come through the building on an annual basis. The blue and red pieces of the pie at the Cultural Center are the Cultural Center programming, which brings in 55% of the visitors. And this is a graph to indicate the growth that we've experienced in the patron base over the years. We expect to continue to trend around the 30,000 level until we can increase our programming and/or there is an additional infrastructure. Another significant trend is the nature by which our program revenues and expenses now relate. In the start of the programming, it was necessary to spend to build the programs without revenue sources. In the first couple of years, the growth in revenue was significant as the community bought into the programs being offered for the first time. There were years where the growth of the expenses outpaced the growth of the revenue, and the last couple of years have seen more predictable program expenses and stable revenue growth. The rate of growth has slowed in the last 3 years as we run out of capacity to increase programming. We continue to try and hold expenses without compromising on delivering high-quality programs. Cutting costs does not allow for significant growth to appeal to new audiences who are looking for diversity in how or what a program is in its offering. So future program expenses will need to grow to accommodate new audiences. The Aurora Cultural Centre also earns revenue through programming and fundraising efforts. These figures do not include the sustaining town funding to deliver the cultural programming on your behalf. Total fundraising includes sponsorship, grants, and donations. Program revenue includes music concerts, theatrical events, educational classes, facility rentals, and art sales. So some budgetary pressures that we find for 2018. It's already been mentioned today, the provincial government is looking at some legislative changes. The top two on the list here are the most significant to us and have a really high probability of occurring. And as I'm sure you're aware, the province has tabled this legislation going into its third reading for a change to the Ontario Employment Standards. The Fair Workplaces, Better Jobs Act includes a number of impacts on vacation allotments, leaves, and increases to minimum wage. This affects our budget and also how staff feel about their remuneration. The lean staff at the centre are already working to capacity within roles that they've been given. The pressure to continue those roles without adequate compensation can affect the ability to offer programming. We have no ability to take on new opportunities within the current staff structure. It's important to note that even though the financial impact of the new provincial legislation is $17,555, we are supporting the staff recommendation for a $10,000 100 increase, or 2.5% of our budget to 2018. We know this puts additional pressure on the organization. We continue to look for ways to enhance the greater community's awareness of the Cultural Centre and its programming. This affects all of our programs, so we're looking for partnerships and ways to broaden our reach. New conversations with the town have resulted in working with staff to create solutions to show what cultural offerings are within the town, and new partnerships have yielded broader reach throughout the community. We'll continue to pursue these kinds of opportunities. Necessary marketing dollars are fundamental to tell the community about the programming offerings at the Cultural Centre. Lastly, the Aurora Cultural Centre has infrastructure challenges related to IT and e-commerce. We are working to solve these issues with productive conversations with town staff and engaging in partnerships with knowledgeable companies to help us move technology solutions into our operations. So now we'll look at the operating budget. This is an overview of the budget itself. This has been board approved. I'm going to talk about each of the revenues and expenses in the upcoming slides. And it's important to note that we are projecting a deficit for the 2017 year, and we did have an extraordinary expense in this year. So on the revenue side, in 2017, you'll see that our fundraising efforts were successful in gaining a grant from the Canada 150 Fund, which I mentioned before. As many of you helped us celebrate yesterday, the Canada 150 grant was used to build the public art installation called Milestones Murals. 2017 also marked the last year of the Trillium 3-year grant for a staff fundraiser. The revenue for fundraising in 2018 is lower because those two grants are not expected. 2017 program revenues are lower due to low gift shop sales. The gift shop has proven not to be viable in its current format, and therefore we're putting the gift shop on hold until a more viable business model can be possible. The main issue is a lack of physical resources and infrastructure for it to be a proper retail opportunity. Program revenue growth in 2018 are the result of planning for typical growth in events, ticket sales, and registrations. On the expenses side, the 2017 salary and benefits includes the fundraising position funded by $21,900 by the Ontario Trillium Foundation. There were some small savings from staff leave taking, but there were additional costs for backfilling roles and maintaining operations and programming during that time. 2018 salaries and benefits include the provincial legislative impact, and there is no expected increases in the staff complement for 2018. 2017 professional fees includes costs for the 2018 to 2020 strategic plan, which I can't wait to tell you about, but I'm not going to do it tonight, which is in its final stages. So our 2018 costs are lower. We'll also going to shift from using a Toronto-based accounting firm for bookkeeping services and hiring a local accounting firm. to handle our third-party reconciliations and reporting needs. 2017 other includes extraordinary recruitment costs of $15,056 to fill my position. In 2018, we have included professional development for staff to deliver on our strategic plan and make the operations more efficient and accessible to the community. We do have some restricted reserves. We have 3 funds. These funds support sustainability and are there to help the Aurora Cultural Centre in tough times. Each of these funds have established policies that govern access and increases to the funds. These funds are not available for annual operations. The Classical Music Fund was established from gifts made to the Aurora Cultural Centre from Boddy and Norbert Kraft to ensure that classical music is always part of our programming. This fund has grown over the years, and we thank Bonnie and Norbert for their continued support and their dedication to professional classical music events. The contingency fund is a restricted fund intended to cover corporation costs or events that cannot be planned. This fund is a safety net which helps the organization maintain operations through lean times. The fund will help the organization be self-sufficient and not require additional support from the town if there are extraordinary issues. The Special Project Fund was set up to help implement new initiatives and new strategic directions. The reserves are conservatively invested to assure maintenance of principle. And some new initiatives that we have coming up. The board and staff are in the final stages of finalizing the 2018 to 2021 strategic plan. This plan has small shifts in programming that will focus direction and create sustainable growth over time. The plan differentiates our programming from other cultural organizations, creates new partnerships, and delivers artistic programming to the community. We will maintain our open and welcoming environment and are looking for ways to grow programming over time. New educational programs will be in line with the new strategic direction, and relationships we create with the town or other organizations and community associations while working with professional working artists. The gallery programs in the 4 galleries are shifting to include educational curated tours for the community. The programming mix for 2018 will stay similar in 2018 since it was already in place prior to the strategic plan being finalized. We plan 18 to 24 months in advance and are already talking about the 2020 lineup. In all of our programming, staff are always looking for interesting projects which will create dialogue for our community. There are a core group of people who have really adopted the Aurora Cultural Centre as a gem in the community. These core donors and sponsors show us what leadership and philanthropy can look like. We also have new people who join us through the dedicated efforts of our fundraiser over the last 3 years. To now grow this group, we need a dedicated strategic approach. We've responded to the operational needs and feedback from the community to develop a refreshed sponsorship appeal and donation programs for the community. We have every indication that the new approach has some traction in the community, and we look forward to building loyalty and sustainable relationships that are long-standing. All of this past and future success would not be possible without the Town of Aurora's sustaining partnership. We look forward to a fabulous 2018, delivering cultural programming on your behalf. We thank you for your leadership in showing what's possible for a town to build in the cultural sphere. Thank you for your expressed interest and dedication to making Aurora a vibrant and livable community. The board, staff, and community thank you for supporting the Aurora Cultural Centre. Thank you.
Thank you, Suzanne. And if I could first have a motion to put this on the floor. Councillor Marcus, thank you. Who else is on the board? Councillor Hum? No. Councillor, yeah. Councillor Humphreys, you're a second, okay? We're good. We're a little more laid back when it comes to committee meetings. Councillor Marcus.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you to Suzanne. Suzanne, thank you very much for coming and presenting, and to all the board members for showing up tonight and showing their support. You know, when it comes to the fundraising aspect of it, I know that there's lots of challenges, but what I do know from my time sitting on the board is that the board works very hard going out there and try to get these, you know, get people to sponsor and get some fundraising dollars. And so, you know, I'd like to commend all of you for all the hard work that you guys do to go out there and try to get those dollars to come in and kind of alleviate some of the pressures from the tax base. So that's great. It's wonderful, and I'm sure that, and I'm very confident that the board members will continue to work very hard to get that number even higher than it is. Just going to ask you, through you, Mr. Chair, going to ask you the same question I asked the library. When it comes to any step increases, and I know there might not be any. Does the Cultural Center have a merit-based pay policy?
We do not. There are no merit increases. So what we look at is cost of living, and of course this year we have to look at the minimum wage increases. And so the 17,555 is without compression.
Definitely, thank you. And I know we're not talking about it tonight, but I know that the board has also done a lot of hard work when it comes to the strategic plan, and I think that council will be very excited to hear that presentation when it comes, because I know it's going to show how the center's going to move forward and kind of continue that great cultural spirit within our town. So we're looking forward to that presentation. So once again, thank you very much for coming out tonight.
Thank you.
Councillor Humphries, please.
Thank you so very much for coming, and welcome to Aurora. And first of all, I want to say I'm thrilled to have you here with us. It's been such a pleasure to get to know you and your exciting visions along with the board and staff. It's exciting times. And I mean, for me, the Cultural Center offers so much to the community. I'm pleased that you're looking at fundraising, but I'm pleased that we're supporting the Cultural Center, and that there's never a wonder anymore. There's a great way that you can go ahead and plan and continue to work and build strongly, which is really, really important. I'm sorry I missed the unveiling yesterday. I did go by and see it was beautiful. I couldn't make it. I would have been there if I could. It's really stunning art, and just really a real treasure. The question I had is just about the volunteer hours today. Like, that's a substantial amount of hours, 27,135 hours to date, and the value. I mean, that's on the low side. I mean, that's just how incredible.
That's minimum wage. So actually, nationally, they look at it, it's around $16 per hour.
Exactly, be more than that. So to me, that it's pretty incredible that we have that type of support. And one question I had for you, though, just a quick one, in terms of your restricted reserves. Is there a constant contribution, or is that just a set fixed reserve and it just gets replenished to these targets, or is there a view to try to continue to top it up and grow?
There is a policy that the board has around growth targets and how much they'd like to see the reserves have. The Classical Music Fund is a direct contribution through the gift from Bonnie and Norbert, and it is a board motion that happens annually, depending on whether there's a surplus on the year and how the board feels about the ability to make that contribution. A special project fund really is more open-ended, but the contingency fund does have a lot of room for growth at this point when and if there are surpluses on the year.
Okay, great, awesome. I think that's all I had. I just thank you very, very much. There's lots and lots of work being done, and I'm just really excited about the strategic plan and when you come in to share it with us.
I can't wait to.
I can't imagine it. Thank you so much.
Councillor Kim.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Stephanie and board, for coming out today. Did I say Stephanie? Sorry,
It's
Suzanne.
okay. I seem to get called Stephanie a lot, so that's okay.
I get called Howard, so it's okay.
All right.
So my question is, now that you've had a few months here in Aurora and at the Cultural Center, I'd be interested to hear your perspective in terms of what are some of the pleasant surprises that you've come across, and what are some of the unexpected challenges that you might have come across that you didn't expect coming in.
Pleasant surprises. It's an incredible. I guess it isn't a surprise for a town to have so many people who are passionate about living in their community. You don't get that in larger municipalities all the time. So it was lovely as I'm out meeting people through the chamber events or just generally in the public or within the venue, how much they love living in Aurora and what it means to them, whether they work there or not. So there's a really passionate community that feels that Aurora is so important and special to them, and the Aurora Cultural Centers. So I've had a number of people who've come up to me and said, it's amazing how much you do here for the community, and it's really a beloved space. So that's wonderful. I guess the bigger surprise, and it certainly will be reflected in our strategic plan, is how many people don't know about us. So while I speak to people at the Chamber event and find out that they love living in Aurora and what it has to offer, when they hear where I work, they ask what I do. So they don't know necessarily about the Cultural Center and what programming we have. So we have a job to do there in that general awareness and helping the community understand what the Cultural Center can offer. So those would be that'd be my response.
Thank you. And with that comment, you highlighted number 3 under the 2018 pressures.
Mm-hmm.
Marketing and awareness programs are underfunded, making growth challenging. So how much do you think you would need to make that challenge go away? And what would that strategy look like?
My wish list, is that what you're asking for? It's an excellent question. I think there's a number of things that we have to put in place so that we can be really effective in delivering on the marketing strategy. We have put a little bit more money into marketing for the 2018 budget. We have a really dedicated approach in 2019 to how this is going to be built. In 2018, it's adding a few pieces, certainly around how we use our digital marketing and implementing e-commerce and trying to grow our spread from that point, and also having me out in the community a lot more. So it's more of that personal touch in 2018, and we're going to be changing our marketing collateral. So we're trying to work within what we have in 2018 because that was what was available to us. If we have greater revenues, then great, we might look at those opportunities through the year. But in 2019, we actually, within the plan, have some quite strategic moves, and I can give you a better number when I show you what that looks like.
Okay. And often, at the town, we're a big soccer town, and people often say, what are we going to do when Magna doesn't have those soccer fields anymore? And in a similar vein, when the crafts funding runs dry, or they decide to go to Florida or Arizona, is there a contingency plan for the Cultural Center with regards to the classical music program?
Yes, I think that there are always, what hasn't been clear is there are a lot, we invite anyone to participate in the Classical Music Fund. While it was generously started by the crafts, there is a strategic approach around diversifying the funders to that program and to all of our programs. So really looking at fundraising, not just from one particular donor who is giving, but looking at that fund and saying, well, we can invite other people to participate who also love classical music. And we need that and want that so that we can have a sustainable future for that fund.
Have you, every time I ask people who attend the music functions, it's always packed, and the pricing is pretty modest.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure it's been bandied about at the board. Have you considered just increasing the prices? I'm sure you probably still have full capacity.
You will see some pricing changes. What we're starting in January of 2018 is all-in pricing, so people will no longer have the added HST on top of that, so that will already see a bump to all patrons, and then in the fall we're looking at increased ticket prices. So the prices are all going to be normalized at $35 and $40, $35 in advance and $40, which is up from the $30 and $35 right now plus HST. It gives us a little bit more revenue, but mostly it's about helping patrons understand that, well, when they buy and they can see the price on the poster, when they call, they don't then find out that there's additional fees on top of that. It's an irritant for most people, and so we know that could be quite successful in growing an audience, actually, in terms of the general word of mouth. And to your point, in the registrations and in our ticketed events, we will be increasing the pricing there. And we're looking at a rental program as well. So across the board, looking at what those prices are, what the market, what we feel the market can bear, but not having significant step-ups right away.
Okay. And my final question is, under fundraising revenue, in 2017, the year-end estimate, it's higher by about 23% over last year, or the budget. Is it, I know that you mentioned that there were one-time Canada 150 grants, but was that unexpected? Because the budget for 2017 was 87.7. So can I conclude that it was just unexpected, the Canada 150?
That's correct. So because it's a special project and a one-off, and in fact it paid for the majority of the program, we didn't budget for it because you don't know if you're going to get it. But
Okay, great. Well, thank you, and thank you for the great job you and the board are doing.
thank you, Harold.
Thank you, Mayor Daw. Suzanne, thanks for coming, and to the members of the board, thanks for coming as well. There's some new faces, new from when I was on the board, but glad to see everyone out tonight. You mentioned that the minimum wage increase was going to be around just over 17,000. Is that correct? Okay.
17,555.
Awesome, thank you. On your presentation, we don't have to go back to it, but the visitors slide, you talked about how your visitors, or the amount of traffic that you get to the center, is around 30,000 a year.
Mm-hmm.
How do you tabulate that number, or how do you calculate that number?
So we have some hard data from ticket sales and registrations that come through, and then we actually have someone at the desk all the time, and it's a very manual process. We'd love to move to more technology solutions on that one for sure. But that is what we do at this point. We're also looking at ways to gain insight through who's coming into the gallery and why. We have a new software solution there. So right now it's quite manual. Even the ticket buying is manual, so we need to move out of that so that we can start to track some of this data more effectively.
Thank you. On the fundraising figures on the budget page, it mentions that it's grants, donations, and sponsorships. And we don't, obviously, if you don't have these numbers tonight, that's fine, but perhaps if you don't, you could send them to us via email. What percentage of the $89,000 in revenue is from grants, donations, and sponsorships? Do you have it separated out? Do you have an idea of what?
I do.
Okay.
It's, you know what? I don't want to go off my mind, though. I will send it to you. I know I have a sense of the breakdown,
Sure.
but the majority of it is still grants through the HRDC program that offers us funding for our summer students who come in and help us with our summer program, and also the Canadian Heritage Arts Presentation Fund. So that's about 45,000 of the total, and then the rest is sponsorship and individual donations.
Great. Well, that information will be very helpful, and
Sure.
perhaps even from last year as well, just to give a bit of a comparison. And obviously, I'm sure my council colleagues would like to take a look at that as well. So if you could just send it to staff or all of us, I'm sure that can be disseminated in some fashion. Thank you for that. And then the last thing is, you mentioned that your 2017 year-end estimate is $15,000 in the red, but then you mentioned that there was an extraordinary circumstance, or I forget the terminology you used, but do you mind perhaps elaborating a little bit on that?
Sure. How awkward. It costs the organization funds to recruit my position, so it was extraordinary costs to hire me.
Very extraordinary.
Extraordinary. Look at the results. I feel like I need to tap dance now, but
Luckily, that's not the most awkward thing that's been said.
That's okay.
Although I'm blushing a little bit. Anyways, thank you. Thank you very much for your presentation and for the answers. And again, looking forward to that information that you can provide to council on the fundraising dollars.
to the dollar.
Thank
yes.
Thank you, Councillor. Are you trying to say, Suzanne, extraordinary cost for an extraordinary person?
Absolutely. If you said it, actually.
Councillor Thompson.
Thank you, Suzanne, for being here, as well as to all the members of the board as well. Suzanne, I have the benefit of being here last term as well, and being part of the whole Cultural Center agreement. And in that agreement, there was a lot of talk about having KPIs and having those as part of the budgetary process. And I know in the past, myself and Mayor Daw have also been always interested in the one particular KPI, which is the town grant as a percentage of total revenue. And so I didn't see it in your presentation. I have seen it in the past ones. Are those KPIs readily available? Is that something you could forward on to all members of council?
Yeah, they're in all, sorry.
And off the top of your head, The percentage of the town grant that you're requisitioning, is it an increase or a decrease over last year?
It's an increase of 2.5% over last year, and they,
As a percentage of your revenue? I don't think it's an increase of 2.5% over as a
Right.
percentage of your revenue.
The KPIs that you're talking about are actually all listed in the Q reports that we do. So we decided not to focus the presentation around that. My apologies if that was your expectation. But certainly I have them all and can send them to you. The Q3 report will be in your hands December the 15th. So that will be the most up to date for 2017.
That's fine, then perhaps you could just follow up with regards to the town
Yep.
grant as a percentage of your total revenue
Sure.
request and whether it's an increase. I think that over the years, and I can only speak for myself, there's been some conversation about, a reduction on the reliance on the town grant as you grow your revenue base. And I know that for a number of years it did decline, and then, so I'm interested to know whether it's sort of flatlined or it's increasing again or decreasing. And so I'd appreciate your perspective. I can do the math, but I'd like to get from the
No problem.
Thank you.
Councillor Thompson, Councillor Gardner.
Thank you very much. You speak almost faster than my mind works. And thanks to the board. I've never experienced a board who works as hard as you do. It's awesome is not an uncalled for use of the word, so thank you. From what I can gather from your speech, two of your main concerns, and one came up more than once, was the space, retention of space and retention of staff. So we all understand retention of space. Can you speak to retention of staff?
It's one of the things that certainly I've learned over the six months or so that I've been here, that the staff are really working at capacity, and there haven't been compensation adjustments for the work and the output that they've had. So it's really, that's the biggest challenge. And there's a number of ways that we're approaching this. Some of it is just through HR management, performance management, over the year, and the strategic plan will help us with that in looking at goals and having some KPIs for the staff to achieve, and a whole process that goes behind that doesn't exist in terms of the structure of the organization right now. There's also a need for a compensation plan in the organization. Right now, there isn't. It doesn't exist, and so that's work within my skill set. And so, as soon as the strategic plan is complete, that is actually a significant piece of work that I want to look at. It's really important. The staff that we have there are incredible. They have a broad skill set. This is a people industry. It's highly skilled individuals that work there. Because of the nature of how lean the staff is, if you were to lose one person, there are multiple programs that would be impacted by that. So we're just not separated or siloed out the way some other organizations might be. So it would be a massive impact. It's really important to keep the staff. I mean, for any organization it is. When you're working with such a small team, it just is doubly so. So it's compensation and also work environment and expectations and outcomes, and tracking that and really having some clear conversations around those expectations, which the staff are quite open to and very excited about moving into that next stage for us. So I think there's some light at the end of the tunnel. I don't think that this budget actually gets us there, but I think that there is an understanding that there's a lot of pressures and that there's some really exciting work that we want to do through the strategic plan, which is triggering that passion button for a lot of the staff. So, yeah, that would be my answer.
Thank you.
Councillor Marcus.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you, Suzanne, just want to say that my wife is actually pretty disappointed that the holiday crafts program is not available this year. She won't be able to make her wreath or her snow globe, so I'm actually a little bit happy I don't have another extra snow globe coming home. But
I'm glad I could make you happy. That's excellent.
I just want to make a comment. You mentioned that a lot of people within the town that you've spoke to, throughout your time here so far, that they don't really know about the center or what you guys provide. And also we heard that space is pretty much a bit of a factor. I guess I think that maybe it's something that we can all look forward to with the redevelopment of the Library Square that we're looking at, and that might be something that's exciting, that's going to bring more people to the area and allow them to take part and know what's going on within the area. So I guess everyone's kind of looking forward to that. So I just wanted to make that comment. So
Thank you.
Councillor Abel.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I didn't want to be the only one that didn't speak, so I just wanted to thank the board. Many I've known for a number of years on serving 2 terms and serving on the board as well. I just want to thank you. I know it's an arduous task. I am taken with the fact that we have not had any increase for your staff in wages, and that just to me is not the town's constitution and philosophy. We increase all our staff at 2% or the cost of living. I think that's a huge gap, and we're also I'm amazed because I don't think there's been any staff turnover as far as I know.
There has been some staff turnover, and we have in the past done cost of living. We've done cost of living adjustments every year, so it's not that they haven't had anything. It's just when you start at a base rate of X and you're adding more expectations without additional compensation. It's a bit of a challenge when you get to 7 years or 8 years.
Yeah, I totally agree with that.
Yeah.
And they're also excellent. The only way you retain excellent people is look after them. Mm-hmm. So, I feel that we should be in on that conversation with you. And I just want to thank you all. I mean, it's always great going in there, whether it's musical, and I always enjoy myself there, and you're always helping and active. And I wanted to thank you and your staff for the making piece that you generously put forward, and all the other things you guys do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I just wanted to make one point. Suzanne, you mentioned about staffing and turnover, and I know last year that I'd spoken, and there was a motion to have our CAO look at the funding model, distribution model for our cultural partners, and part of that was to have to understand what the base needs are and to have sufficient funding so that you don't have these concerns. If you really need 20% more, then that's what we should have, and build upon that and have a 5-year long-term plan so that you know how to have your strategic plan. Unfortunately, there were a lot of town challenges, and so Mr. Nadrasny, his attention wasn't on the cultural partners structural makeup, but I'm hoping that before the next budget year we'll have something before this term is over. So hopefully there will be some light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah, we look forward to the cultural partners review. I'm aware of it and certainly very interested in being involved. So.
Thank you very much, Suzanne, and thank you to the members of the board for coming out. As Councillor Thompson mentioned, where are you going? Holy jeez. I think we better check out that overpayment thing here.
Not so extraordinary. I missed the boat. Sorry about that.
One of the things that Councillor Thompson mentioned was the KPIs, and that's very important, certainly, I think, in terms of ensuring that we're going forward, and because we want to make sure that the cultural center is sustainable in the long term. I think we all want that. Because it's a very important piece of our town fabric, and we're all pretty keen on it. I know that we've all mentioned different parts that we like of the Cultural Center operation. I think my favorite one is the student art display in February. So I always look forward to that. It's always quite eye-opening, and I'm glad that it's continuing and it's actually being ramped up a bit. So thank you very much for coming out. Thank you very much to the board for all you do for the town. Calling the vote then, council. All in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Thank you. And last, but certainly not least, is the Aurora Historical Society.
Good evening, and good evening to council. We're delighted to be here. I'm going to share the lectern tonight with our curator, Erica Mazanik. I'll start us off. I'll provide a little bit of context. Erica will take us through some of the curatorial and operational activities that we have done and are planned, and then I'll try to wrap up and summarize and try to keep everything clear and hopefully within time limit. So, starting with mandate, to preserve, interpret, and promote the cultural, social, material heritage of the community of Aurora and education for the education, enrichment, and enjoyment of present and future generations. I often simply summarize it. We try to preserve the past and represent it to the people of today for their education and pleasure. And we've been doing that now for 56 years, and I think we've done it very well. So tonight, I want to recap what we accomplished in 2017, and we're very proud of it. And I think as Erica outlined some of our metrics and key performance parameters, I think you'll agree that it's been another good year for the Historical Society. I want to review some of our plans for 2018 and beyond, and I would like to verbalize our annual request for support. We've had some very productive and straightforward conversations with Mr. Elliott. I think our needs are well known and our requests are well known, but I will try to ensure that they are summarized and they're out there for everyone to see and to comment upon. So just to keep in mind what our requests go toward, we provide a lot of care, love, and attention to the building itself. So the maintenance, restoration, and repair of Hillary House is a key part of what the town money goes toward. One thing that's very critical is that we are able to use that to leverage significant other monetary sources, and we have had a very successful couple of years of doing that. We've spent a great deal of money on the house, and a lot of it's generated by what we raise here in Aurora, including your grant, but we have been able to get money from, significant monies from other sources that are a result of us being a separate, not-for-profit, arm's-length organization. We do have the ability to tap into some capital sources, and we are trying to do so as efficiently and as frequently and as significantly as we can. So the maintenance, restoration, and repair of the house is always right at the top of our agenda, and we continue to take that very seriously. I'll give you a short recap of some of the things we've done. We also use it to put on our exhibits. We put on a number of exhibits this year, and I know a number of you came to them. So as a museum, exhibitions are our stock in trade. That's what we're there to do, and we have done a number of them this year, and we have plans for them again next year. We run a significant number of programs. We have many special events, private and public, and we have a significant outreach for educational purposes into the schools, the educational milieu, into the seniors, and into some of the other cultural communities that are within Aurora. It's something we're actually going to put more emphasis on in the near future. So those are the things we do with it, but in order to do them, we also have to pay staff salaries, marketing and promotion, administration, insurance, utilities, just the cost of keeping the business operation, and that's where the town of Aurora's grant goes to. As I'll show you shortly, the total amount of money that we raise and your money in context, it's normally between 30 and 40% of our total operating expenditures and monies raised come from the town. So as you can tell, we put a lot of energy into getting other capital sources throughout the year. So we have a long history of working with the town. We really can't say enough about our relationship with the town at every level. We've had tremendous support with everything from cutting down trees to clearing driveways on occasion to doing many, many things. And it really is a help, and we always find the town staff to be a delight to work with. Very forthcoming, willing, and always able. This is a National Historic Site. It's a very, very important part of our town. And the town has obviously taken it to heart, and you help us in a great number of ways. So we thank you for that. We prize the relationship, and we want it to go on and keep it for, indefinitely. So we're looking to the town of Aurora for your continued support. We are requesting $74,100 specifically for operations, and we have an additional amount of monies if needed, for storage, dependent upon the outcome of some of the other facilities that may be repurposed for other reasons. We have material in the armories which would have to be relocated, and we'd need to have some assistance in doing so and finding a suitable place, and in at least finding a short-term solution to that. We have another long-term solution, which I'll reference in a moment. But we look to the town for the operating support and for that specific need, if in fact it arises. So there's the house, and I'll talk a little bit more about it later, tell you what we did with it. And we've made some changes, so that picture has actually been modified a little bit. But at this stage, with that context, I'd like to call on Erica to talk to our accomplishments this year.
Thank you, Bill. Hello, everyone. So one of the things we emphasized this year were our local partnerships. You can see the extensive list. I won't go into all of those, but we really found with such a limited organization that partnering within our local community has really helped us to reach a larger audience and make a greater impact. I'm just going to touch on a couple specific events. One was the newcomer walking tours mentioned by the library earlier, hosted in partnership with our educator Leah and working with Claudia at the library. It was 2 events held in June, both aimed at new Aurorans and new Canadians. The first event was hosted in English. The second was hosted in English with a Mandarin interpreter, which has really allowed us to expand our base. They were both historical walking tours down Yonge Street from Hillary House to the library, and were both very successful events that will and there's already been discussions regarding repeating them in 2018. Another partnership that I'd like to touch on is the Aurora Chamber of Commerce Home Show. As many of you know, it was celebrated 30 years this year, and AHS was approached about creating a display for the history of Aurora. We partnered with the Aurora Museum and Archives on this to create a wonderful display, I think, on the history of Aurora with images and artifacts, and that was one of our big partnerships. The next one I'm going to talk about comes into our highlights from 2017. So these are some of our largest programming and exhibition highlights. And you can see there the picture is from our Vimy commemoration night, which was a reflection on Vimy 100 years later. This was a fantastic partnership between the Aurora Historical Society, the Aurora Cultural Center, and the Aurora Museum and Archives. It was also assisted by the local cadets, who you can see there. They wore their uniforms and actually read letters from World War I soldiers through this event. And it was funded graciously by the town's Culture and Recreation Grant, allowing us to make it free to the community. It was a hugely successful evening. We were packed house. I've never heard such positive commentary about any event ever. I think it was so fabulous. And it was the first time our 3 specific groups worked all together, the 3. We've worked individually with both, and it was just wonderful to have that partnership. And none of these events that I've listed here would have been possible without working together. I'll touch briefly. We had 5 exhibitions this year, one on the history of Vimy Ridge, running coherent along with this event. We had 150 Years Young, discussing the history of Yonge Street and its impact on the establishment of Canada. And right now we have Art at the Manor open with local artists displaying their works. We also had a youth music night, which was a first. It was actually run by a local high school student, and it was, again, a wonderfully successful event with students aged 12 to 20 coming to perform music at Hillary House. It's something we really think the ballroom is meant for, is music, and so we're trying to put a greater emphasis on that. We had our 9 speaker series events. That's up from 5 last year, and we're looking to have 10 next year. That's been a very successful program. I already touched on the walking tours. We've had improved landscaping. As Bill mentioned, that picture of the house is a little bit different now. That was taken July 1st. We no longer have the big junipers at the front, so you can actually see the front door. So that's due to the work of the landscaping committee headed by John Bear, so that was really wonderful. And the last highlight I'm going to touch on is our books. I'm sure you all remember an Aurora ABC. The first night we ever sold it was being here last year, so that continues to have strong sales. Added to our bookstore in the gift shop is the Story of Dr. Strange, again written by Jacqueline Stewart, on the history of the 2nd Doctor who lived at Hillary House, Dr. Frederick Strange. Much more interesting and shady character than I first learned, and definitely has improved my tours. I'm going to touch briefly on our fundraising highlights. This year we had an absolutely record-breaking Hillary House Ball, so we thank the town for their continued support. I know those of you who came, I hope everyone enjoyed the evening. We had record-breaking attendance as well as record-breaking amount raised with $27,000. That's net, not gross. So that was fantastic. We had a grant from Heritage Canada, which was a museum assistance program grant that went towards our collections management. Our collections management, we needed a new software program. We were kind of lacking in that department, being on paper and Excel, which is not great. So that allowed us to get Past Perfect. It's the same program used by the Aurora Museum and Archives, and gives us definitely an increase to what we can do. Right now we're in the midst of photographing every single thing in the collection. We continue to work with the Parks Canada cost sharing program. If you recall last year, that's the grant that allowed us to remediate the water in the basements with all the rain this year. That was definitely helpful. Bill will touch on that a little bit later, what we did with that this year. We got into corporate fundraising with the Talbot's Fashional Fundraiser and the Hudson's Bay Giving Day. Those were both very successful events that allowed us to contribute to our fundraising. Canada Summer Jobs continue to support our summer students. We had 2 this year. We're hoping for 2 next year. We'll see what the minimum wage increase allows us to have. We'll send out our annual appeal later this year. And lastly, the Community Museum Operating Grant, which is our major grant we put in every year with the province, and it requires us to meet some pretty rigorous museum standards each year, and we're proud to say we meet those every single year. Lastly, that turned out a little bit different than I put it up. That's okay. The numbers, just a few KPIs that I wanted to share. Our people reached, and that's in person, both through people coming to Hillary House and our outreach events, was just over 3,300 people, so that's up 10.5% from last year. This is reflected in an increase in our membership, which is up 8% with 331 members. These are all to the end of October. Our volunteer hours were significantly up 18% with almost 3,800 volunteer hours. Part of that was due to the collections management project. We've had a number of aspiring museum professionals putting in work hours to assist us with that project to get real life hands-on museum experience. And finally, our social media followers continue to be strong, and that just gives us a larger platform to spread our message about the history of the town of Aurora as well as Hillary House.
Thank you, Erica. One other thing I should say is that the organization is strong. It's not a KPI, but it is something that's critically important. Our board is strong. We have great support from here tonight. We have a big board. It's the largest it's been in many years, and it's a talented board, and it's a committed board. As Erica just showed you, our volunteer commitment is very high. We had more volunteer hours than we've ever had, and our membership is at an all-time high, so we have over 330 members, and these are active members. So the organization's fiber, which is the people of Aurora and our small but mighty staff, is in very, very good shape. So aside from all the things that we do, the people that do it are essential, and they're in a terrific condition. We did a lot to the house in the last couple of years. We spent a little over $80,000. Erica mentioned the basement. And if you drove by at any given point in time through the summer, you probably saw windows out, cherry pickers on the lawn, scaffolds, etc. We did a significant remediation to the exterior gingerbreading, and we did some significant remediation to the balcony out front. You can see on the upper right-hand side that there's a fair bit of unpainted new wood there. These are pieces of wood that have been there for as many, some of them as many as 160 years, and they require repair and replacement on occasion. So the wooden elements of Hillary House are a key part of its character and its feature. It's one of the reasons it's a National Historic Site. It contributes to its designation as the best romantic Gothic house in Canada. So we needed to spend a fair bit of money on it, which we did. It's important to note that we got cost sharing on this. So Parks Canada contributed half in both cases. It's important for us to have a project list ready, because when Parks Canada put out a call that's saying there's money available for this type of purpose, it's usually done on very short windows. Normally you can't get everything organized in time to respond unless you're already well down the pipe. And in each case, we've learned how to do that. So we have got a list of projects that are identified. Hopefully they're costed and they all have project plans, so we're ready to go whenever these windows open, and we're the first people through them. But the house is in good shape. One thing I'll talk about shortly is our strategic plan, because we've done a extremely extensive assessment of the house itself. These are our key financial metrics. They're explained in more depth in our report, and these are highlights. The columns don't always add, and across and down, but basically we are projecting this year to come in at about a break even, call it a $4,500 projected surplus. And next year we plan to spend everything we bring in. So we've been pretty lean with our expenses. We've done all the things we need to do with our house, but we watch our pennies carefully. And we've tapped into some new revenue sources. The books have done well. As I think the first one was given to you, Mr. Mayor, last year, we have subsequently sold in excess of 300 of them. So that's a nice little revenue source. And we have more to sell. And we have just got this one, and that's selling well. And we have a gift shop that's actually grossing more than I expect every month. So we're doing well with respect to ancillary revenue sources as well. So we continue to maintain focus on a balanced budget. We go into 2018 knowing we have to step up in some areas around fundraising, and we will do that. And we're committed to running the organization financially in a very responsible way. We do not have any exposures with respect to the new minimum wage Ontario provincial laws. Our plans for 2018, number one, we have our 5-year strategic plan. We're putting that into place right now. We had and I've mentioned this before, we had a very extensive survey done by Canada's leading heritage architecture firm called ERA Architects. They did a good, thorough going over of the house. Because with an old house of this size and complexity, there are many things that are potentially able to go wrong, and many of them unexpectedly. We wanted to get ahead of that to the greatest extent we could. The basement 2 years ago was unexpected. And they have given us a list of the things that they see requiring restoration, remediation, and repair. And we're going to put together a multi-year, 5-year plan to make sure that we have got money set aside from that and we don't have any horrific surprises. So our strategic plan will start with an assessment of the building and a plan to address its needs. One of the things we want to do is to bring more of the building into museum usage, and our strategic plan will continue to do that. Right now, we have one of the bedrooms dedicated to storage, and we have the historic kitchen dedicated to staff offices. The plan will be over time to see if we can remediate that. Now, in order to do that, we'd like to get our focus on the restoration of the coach house. Now, the coach house was taken down last year, and we did not have the ability, with all else that was going on, to put it back up this year. So it's now still on the Hillary House site, well protected under a metal cladding roof. And we want to restore it onto the site, and it'll add approximately 800 square feet of storage. Now, that storage could be used for other purposes, but if we used it as storage, we would certainly be able to now put all of the footage in the house that's being used for storage to museum purposes, which is our plan. So we would bring the one bedroom back into museum use. If you go in there now, it's just full of stuff. It's all catalog stuff and valuable stuff, but it's not usable. And as I said, the offices occupy the historic kitchen. So we'd have the ability to do some things along the way. We have very few opportunities to do this because the Ontario Heritage Trust will insist upon correctly that anything that's added to the site in terms of a structure be historically conforming, and there are very, very few things that would meet the criteria they would set. This historic coach house from 1876 is one of the very few buildings that would do so. So that's one of our long-term plans that we'll work into our strategic plan and make it a 2018 priority. Likewise, the concept of the parking lot. You and we worked together to do a very hasty proposal last year. It was well received but not accepted. The town cooperation was exceptional, and we want to make sure that we get out ahead of the parking lot conversation again. Just to remind you, at the base of the Hillary property, back off of Machel Avenue, is the town storage depot, which is right now in disuse, and we would like to, with your help, repurpose part of it for a parking lot, and at the same time provide access to the Hillary property from that rear end all the way up through a properly illuminated walkway, which would meet accessibility standards. And we put it together, and it was sent to Trillium, and it was not accepted, but that's only strike one. We get 10 strikes in this business, and we'll keep going at it. So those are our major plans. In addition, we'll do all the things we normally do. We'll run exhibitions, we'll conduct fundraising, we'll have speakers. Our speaker series has been exceptional. We've had several sellouts. and always a packed room. We'll participate in all the town events, Doors Open, Culture Days, Canada Day, etc. And we will make extra effort this year into some of our education outreach, where we'll reach out to schools, seniors, and some of the new communities in Aurora to try to introduce them to Aurora's heritage, which, having read this book, we all know is much more interesting than people think it is. So we thank you for everything you've done in the past. We would reiterate our request is for the amount that we've discussed at $74,100, which is last year, with a cost of living adjustment, which would be appropriate. And if need be, an additional $5,000 for storage, which we can discuss if and when that becomes required. Thank you, Council. Thank you, Mayor. That's the end of our presentation this evening. If you have any questions of me or Erica, feel free.
Thank you very much, Mr. Albino. And Erica, thank you. And Mr. Downey was just reminding me, don't go away, that last year you passed around a bottle of scotch.
It was actually rye.
Was it?
It was rye. No, and we sold it at the Hillary House Ball in a live auction. It went for $500.
I'm going to give a small plug too. January 18th at Chats, we'll be doing our Scotch tasting again. I'm sending out the email next week.
We just were kind of wondering, you know, if you weren't going to be doing that again. Guess not. Council, may I first have a motion, please? Councillor Humphreys, Councillor Tom, thank you. Comments or questions, please? Councillor Humphreys.
Great. Thank you, through Mr. Mayor, and thank you so much for being here today and just seeing the evolution of how strong the Historical Society is just incredible. It's wonderful, it's vibrant, it's alive, and it's just doing a great job. Thank you so much. Of course, the Hillary House is just our town jewel, really. And we've got a couple of them. That's one of the very significant ones. And I appreciate all your planning. There's a great plan here. I'm sorry I could not make the ball. I would have been there, but I had an exceptional circumstance. But I heard how wonderful it is. You continue to do these great things, and it's just so right to continue that. Your comment earlier about the parking in the back, additional parking in the back, have you had any discussions with town staff on that, or any progress to that effect?
Not since we actually put the proposal in.
Okay.
But when we did put the proposal, when we were preparing the proposal, it's one of the ones that came up on very short notice. It came up from Trillium,
Sure.
and it was an exception because they don't normally fund capital. But for whatever reason, they came out with this very short windowed capital fund. So we decided to take a swing at it. And we worked extensively with the staff, Al's staff, planning staff. One individual who was extraordinarily helpful was a gentleman named Brian Jacovina, who helped put together detailed plans, detailed costs. Since then, though, Councillor Humphreys, we have not had any follow-up conversations. We probably need to wind them up again.
Yeah, thank you. Because to your point, Mr. Mayor, I'm definitely going to keep note of that, and perhaps see if staff can come up with some sort of information on how we can see what that would cost and what we can do. Because I think it's the best thing we can do to help improve more attraction to the site, ease of parking, accessibility, all the right things that we need to do. And then you can evolve more events on site once you have that additional space.
Yeah.
If it's okay with
And if I can speak to that, because you're on a topic I particularly like speaking to. As you know, we have a lot of acreage. And
Yeah.
the back property at Hillary House is a beautiful piece of flat land. It's on floodplain, but it's been used for many years by the Arboretum as their seedling hatchery, whatever you call that, nursery. They have now moved on, and we have about a beautiful acre that we'd like to bring into park use in some fashion, and the ability to have parking of groups from the backside would make that incredibly possible, and you could run many, many events back there.
Absolutely. I've already got that. That is so important. So that's great. I really appreciate that. And I had one other question for you, but I can't remember now. But thank you very much. And thank you again to the board members and everyone here. It's great to see everyone coming out. It's important. And thank you again for all your hard work.
You. Councillor Gardner.
Aurora is really lucky to have 3 such wonderful cultural partners. Thank you to everyone, to the board over there. Erica, Bill, I remember saying last year that you had an exceptional year, and I'm just going to say the same this year. It really is exceptional what you've done with Hillary House and the board. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Elliott, I know that you've got just a quick comment.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Earlier in the meeting, you were admonishing one member of council for being very generous in offering to provide additional funding to the group. In working with our cultural partners, we provided funding targets once, and then we increased them. And unfortunately, in the presentation tonight, they have mentioned the phrase 74-100. They missed their increase of $300. And so I'd be happy to slip out and find the $300 of sample money and add it. And so I suggest that the recommendation on the screen is appropriate. It's the number that I intended to provide. And somewhere, unfortunately, our communication broke down, but my apologies for that. 74-400 is our intent. And I think the committee would agree that that's a fair number.
Gratefully accepted.
Councillor Abel.
I'm in the middle. So, did you want to speak, Councillor Gardner? Oh, you just wanted to let them know. Well, I want to thank you, Bill and Erica, for a great presentation, and welcome the board. And I didn't want to be last this time, so I got my name up early. But it's really good to see the Historical Society here doing well. Because last term, it wasn't always well. You've really done an exceptional job. My first comment on the restoration and remediation and repair, you did a lot of work on the front. We have a community improvement plan for funding for houses and facades and stuff like that. Does that not apply in this case? I just thought, because it's sitting, I think the balance is at 700,000 and we have had 3 applications in 8 years, so make yourself avail to that. If it's there, you might as well use it.
Point noted.
Okay, very good. I don't know if it applies to the coach house, but I do want to say I'm very excited, first of all, your initiative to go and get it and immediately see where it has a spot here. I think it requires a special fundraiser sort of idea to get, and I'd love to be involved in that, and I'm sure a lot of council would if we can't fund it directly, but there's ways. Have you got a projected cost or any idea?
Not a good one. It'll be, there's, one of the questions is what you do with it. If you make it such that it is occupiable, electrified, and plumbed, it becomes a different conversation, which means, there's bathrooms, et cetera, like that. But it'll be in excess of $100,000. The question is, how much in excess of $100,000? So per square foot of heritage space, it's actually not all that much. It's not a minor thing, but you're right, Councillor Abel, it will require a special fundraising effort. I'd love to have you be part of it.
Good.
And consider that done.
All right, so you were saying you were availing to the Ontario Heritage Trust Fund, something like that? You said there, it may or may not. Anyways, you're looking at other avenues, aren't you?
Well, we had them out. Ontario Heritage Trust has an easement on our property. They can basically veto anything.
Oh, I see what that is.
And Ontario Heritage Trust, as a result of being a National Historic Site, they are the organizational mechanism by which heritage conformity is enforced. So they wouldn't let us put a lawn chair in the front yard at one point. But for the most part, they will approve anything that's under the building to ensure that something of a National Historic Site status does not impair itself. Adding a building to the site is a very touchy thing. We had them out, we showed them the coach house, we took them through it, the photos of it, and we gave them its history, and they said that would be an acceptable addition to the site, which frankly was a little good news for us because they didn't have to. So it's a unique chance to add square footage and save something of value.
Okay, I just want to commend you. It's a great initiative, and it would be a great addition to the site. The books are great. I've read them both.
Great.
The Hillary House Ball was exceptional this year. I want to commend all those that were involved in it. And I did note, while there were speakers up there, we had our our MP speaking, and glowingly of the National Historic Site, et cetera, et cetera. But it was interesting, and no one pointed out, it's the town that pays for it, and all the great work that you do, they absolutely give no money.
Well, they do, but they you know what? It was probably a faux pas on our part to under express appreciation for you and over express it for them. However, we won't do that again.
Anyways, they were taking all the credit. I'm like, hey. And I just wanted to, again, just say thank you all very much. Doing a great job.
Councillor Thompson.
Thank you, Bill, for being here, as well as all the board members. If I could ask that the presentation be put back on. Bill, as the chair of the Financial Advisory Committee, I think, I like to ask certain questions, but one of the things I don't see in the handouts that was given to us is a copy of your 2018 budget. And I know you had a brief slide in the presentation that kind of summarized your projections for 2018.
So we have a line item by line item budget, which we'd be glad to share with you.
And that's what I was going to be my request.
Sure.
If you could share, I'm guessing, I'm sure all of council would, it's what we're typically comfortable with, as well as being the fiduciary responsibilities we share. I'm sure you understand that.
I do. And we have a new and wonderful new treasurer this year, replacing John Smale, who had worked for a couple of decades at it. We now have Len Balmer at the back. And Mr. Balmer will put together something that we'll provide within 2 weeks. Fair enough?
I appreciate that.
Okay.
Thank you. And just to get some clarity, while you've asked for, essentially a grant of $74,400 now, there's also a special request for the $5,000. So that's over and above that 74. Is that correct?
Correct.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Excuse me, I got to go to Councillor Tom. Hasn't spoken yet.
Thank you, Mayor Daw, and thanks, guys, for coming out again. Great organization in town, and it looks like you guys are doing quite well. And the Hillary House Ball, as been mentioned before, is just a great event. And I actually am partial to the Scotch tastings as well. I don't think I was there the most recent one, but certainly they're a hit for sure. And I know that you work well with Chats on that one too. So similar to Councillor Thompson, I was trying to actually pull it up from last year, but you mentioned that you could send us a budget for 2018. And that'd be great. I'm just wondering, is that going to be something that the public is going to be able to take a look at? I mean, is it going to be an added item on the next council general committee meeting agenda or something like that? If they provide us with their budget numbers for this year and last year? Can be added as an addendum to the agenda on a budget committee meeting moving forward? Nods?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Great. Well, looking forward to another great year with partnering with the Historical Society. And you had mentioned that the minimum wage increase hasn't affected your organization.
Correct.
So I think it's good for us to know the impact of that. And again, I appreciate you coming and appreciate all the hard work. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Marcus, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you to Bill. Bill, thank you for coming, and thanks to the board for all the hard work. It seems you guys are getting stronger every year, and which is a good thing. I just had a question. Through the slides, there was a mention about the social media aspect, and you have just under 9,000 followers. I'm wondering, is that within all aspects of social media? So your Facebook, your Twitter, your Instagram?
Yes, that includes Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Pinterest.
Okay.
We actually have 2 accounts for the Facebook and 2 for Instagram, one for AHS and one for the Hillary House Ball. So it's a number of all that accumulated.
Okay, and I'm just wondering, do you find, through you, Mr. Chair, do you find that there's been more awareness due to the social media aspect, all the material you guys are putting out now?
I think so. For an organization like ours, any marketing costs are, we always try and keep them as strict as possible. So between our e-blasts out to members and our social media, those are our 2 our main sources of marketing, and they've definitely been working this year. So
definitely, and social media is definitely a cheap way to get the word out. So
absolutely, I can.
So, and you guys do a fabulous job. I follow you guys, and
Thank you.
I think it's excellent the stuff that you guys post. So keep up the great work, and yeah, looking forward to an excellent year.
Thank you.
Councillor Kim.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Bill and Erica and the board for doing a great job with what little resources that you guys have. You know, I was, in the last 20 minutes while you were up there, I was reading the full report, and there was a kind of a theme that was kind of in the underbelly that I couldn't quite catch, but then as I was reading it again, there's a pattern where it says, this followed a similar pattern elsewhere, including Newmarket, Richmond Hill, Stouffville, where community museums are now funded and run directly by municipal governments. And then the next page, examples of comparable national historic sites which are funded and operated directly by municipalities. Is this a hint?
No. No, we're, there's a variety of museum models around. Many municipalities operate their museums themselves. Aurora has a mixed model. You have the Aurora Museum, which is operated by the town, and has the Aurora Collection, which is owned by the town, which was granted by us. But the operation of Hillary House and the Aurora Historical Society, I think, is optimal as a separate not-for-profit institution. It does give us lots and lots of opportunities to access funds outside that would not be available if you were operating it yourself. Plus, I also believe that this is shared by our board, that a spirited, not-for-profit, volunteer-based organization can do a lot of great things. And I think we've shown that we have, and we've shown that we can. So if that was a hint, it was Freudian and subliminal. And
okay.
Don't take it to heart.
Okay. Thank you.
Councillor Humphries.
Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor. And Councillor Abel, that was my question I had forgotten, but it's the initiative is called the Community Improvement Plan. And we match up to, I believe, 15 or 30,000, I can't remember. But Mr. Mamuno leads that area. So I would take that, and because it is, I don't believe it's precluding the Hillary House. It's independent organization. And if you're making improvements, we match that up to a certain amount. I don't know if it's 15 or 30. So all you do is fill in, and it'll get looked at and hopefully approved. So contact Marco and Mr. Rumuno, and I think it's a good opportunity for you to help with some of those expenses you've had this year.
Super.
Or
Wonderful
going
tip.
to have, you know, depending on whatever your plans are for the future. Something to take into consideration. Thank you.
Councillor Gardner.
I would like to thank everybody for coming and for staying. And I'd just like to mention on your way out, we have at our customer service desk 2 baskets of blank Christmas cards that we want to send to soldiers. So if you have the time, that would be great.
Councillor Thompson.
Thank you, and by all means, please contact Mr. Ramuno and follow up about it. But going back on memory, I believe part of the intent was the investment in those kind of properties would raise the value of the property, and the town would recoup that money through property taxes. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't believe Hillary House pays property taxes, but I could be wrong.
We don't. So the town would recoup it through added street appeal. And the gratitude of a large organization.
I'll leave that for you to make that argument with Mr. Ramuno, but I do know that that was part of the intent of it. So you'll see some of the programs are designed to offset property taxes or development charges and so forth, or belief in recouping it through deferring taxes and stuff. But I'll leave it for you to work it out for staff and come up with some creative rationale.
Well put.
Thank you very much. And Bill and Erica, thank you very much for coming. What game was the date in January? 18th for the Scotch tasting? Yes. Thank you. Just want to be able to let people know if they ask me.
By the way, every one of those is sold right out, so time is of the essence.
Got it. Be a Christmas present for myself. Bill, you mentioned in your presentation a community integrity agreement with, I think, Parks Canada. What? I've never seen that phrase before. What does that mean?
Commemorative integrity agreement. That's basically...
I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's... as a National Historic Site, Parks Canada is the organization that grants that designation, and they basically police it through Ontario Heritage Trust, but we do undertake to maintain the integrity of the building. So to become a National Historic Site, as you know, there are many historic buildings, many plaqued buildings. There's Ontario plaqued buildings, there's local plaqued buildings. The National Historic Site is really reserved for very special buildings that meet a bunch of very strict criteria around historic importance, architectural importance, originality. We signed an agreement to maintain the elements in a way that will not impair any of those, and OHT, then Ontario Heritage Trust, do the enforcement of it.
Thank you very much. And Erica, you mentioned the CMOG grants. Are they like the library grants? They haven't changed in the last...
We've been receiving the same amount since 2010, and I don't see that increasing. I've heard through the grapevine that actually is being a grant that's been more difficult for certain organizations to get. They're trying to be very strict on who receives it, so I don't see that increasing anytime soon.
And a couple of councillors have mentioned the fact that although it's a National Heritage Site, it's entirely supported by the municipality. And I know that I, along with other members of council, have talked to our federal MPs, excuse me, since I've been here to try and get something going, and without a whole lot of success. We won't give up, but it is, I can appreciate it's frustrating for you to experience that.
Right now, money's not loose for things of this nature. In terms of National Historic Sites, there's only two in York Region, ourselves and Sharon Temple, and they like us have to be enterprising in terms of fundraising. And in all of Yonge Street, there are only two historic sites left: ourselves and the Elgin and Winter Garden Theatre, and that's private. Although I think the City of Toronto might have a position in it, but it was privately redeveloped. So we're the only two. So in all of Yonge Street, longest street in the world, there's only two structures that met that strict criteria.
Wow, didn't know that. That's great. Mm-hmm. I mention whenever I can to our MPs that the federal government spent well over $1 million to build a new welcome center at Bethune House in Gravenhurst. So hoping that some of that will rub off at some point. So, yeah. Probably. Thank you very much. If there's no more questions, I'll just call the vote, please. All in favor? Any opposed? That is carried. Thank you very much for coming out. Thank you to your board, the Aurora Historical Society, and thank you to the other members of the groups for staying too. We do appreciate it. Appreciate your interest. Council, may I please have a motion to adjourn? Councillors Abel and Maracas, all in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Thank you.